My mom's being scammed for everything she has. I'm trying to break through to her, but she's not listening to me. I will not let this man take advantage of her. I often hear about people being scammed and lied to, because my mom and I have been watching shows like Catfish for a long time now. She was the person least likely to be scammed, or so I thought. When I say that I nearly lost her to a scammer, I'm not exaggerating. And my two siblings simply did not care. In fact, they got along with the scammer. My family broke into pieces about 5 years ago when I was 18 and my father passed away. My siblings, who are presently 25 male and 30 female, kicked my mom at her lowest. Somehow they felt entitled to a larger share of my father's money than me and my mom did. They wanted the house to be in their names, not my mother's. While she was grieving the loss of her husband, they were harassing her for a bigger share of the property. I stood by mom, seeing that she was hurt and did not deserve any of this at all. I've always been close to my mom, which is still why I live with her. After my mother and I refused to give what they wanted, they started telling lies about us to anyone who listened. We stopped talking to each other or acknowledging each other at any family gatherings, and soon enough, it was 5 years and we were still not speaking. My mother was 50 years old now, and I was worried about her because she's not laughed for ages. I've been working for a while, but I chose to return home and stay with her because I wanted to keep an eye on her. When we could not even trust family, we had to have each other's back. My mom was on a lot of pills, ranging from antidepressants to chronic illness. That was until a sudden shift in her. It was like one day she decided to wake up and stop being sad. She started going out of the house even more, singing everywhere, and getting up to her favorite hobbies again. She even spoke about going back to work or starting a business. Me, being the sneaky daughter that I am, I wanted to find a source of my mother's happiness. All it took was me bribing her best friend with some wine for her to give me vague information that my mom was seeing someone. I was so happy for her, especially after seeing how she's been for all those years. But I trusted that she would tell me about the person she was dating in her own time. And sure enough, I met Ivan, a man in his 50s not too long after that, and obviously, I was not so quick to trust him. I knew she would move on one day, but I did not make it easy for me to see her happy with someone who wasn't dad. My mom's gone through so much in the past years, she did not need someone who was going to hurt her. I prayed that Ivan would bring her peace and not more heartache, but the way she spoke about him made me think that he might be good for her. She had met him when she had a panic attack after seeing something that reminded her of my father's death. He had helped take her down from the anxiety and shared his own story about how his wife had also passed away several years ago and he struggled. He then asked for her number so he could check on her later. Then one thing led to another, and he asked her for a date. She said that she was happy for the first time and she did not spend every minute being depressed. And when she was around him, I was curious about how this man managed to pull her out of the darkness when I failed for so many years. So I had high expectations when I met him. He had so much charisma, many jokes, and complimented everything in the house. He wanted to know about my life and seemed like he was cool and hip. But I was getting bad vibes from him, and from past experiences, I trust my intuition. He was too perfect. He said the right things to like there was no question. He could not answer. He had so many stories about traveling the world, hinting that he came from money. My mom's been bragging about his expensive gifts and dates for days on end. He said that he worked and had worked in real estate for the past 10 years. His wife passed away years ago and his kids lived far away from him. I asked to see a picture of the kids, but my mom told me to stop being nosy. She was trying so hard to make us get along through the entire dinner, but I was not impressed. The initial feeling was just me being protective of my mom, but it quickly turned into real fear in a few weeks. After dinner, I told my mom to be careful. There was something I did not like about him. Well, she promised me she would take things slow with him, but the next thing I knew, he was moving in with us. She said that she loved and trusted him a lot, so things were just progressing. All in the span of a month, I thought it was ridiculous, and I made sure to tell my mom, who told me that she felt like she's known him for a long time, and I just had to give him a chance. It was difficult to give him a chance when there were so many red flags with him, like his obsession with his phone, to the point where one time I wanted to answer a call for him when he was not in the room, but he got angry with me and told me never to touch his phone. I told my mom how aggressive he was, but she said that he was just concerned with privacy. For a man who's been in real estate for years, I couldn't find him online. No website, no social media, or any indication that the man existed. I asked him why he did not have a website, and he said that it was a very private company, and the website was under the company name. It led to a dead end with a website that had a domain dating back 2 years ago. He had no family, and we never saw or spoke to any of his children. I told Mom it was important for her to find out everything, especially now that she was living with him, but she was in blind love. One day, she told me that he had been mugged and they took his car. I asked her if he's gone to the police to open a case or even tried to trace it, but she was too busy coughing up money to buy him a new car. It was funny that they did not take his phone or hurt him when they were hijacking him because he seemed perfectly fine. That was just the beginning because my mom started giving him money more frequently. He would say stuff about this money being caught up in an offshore account and needing to borrow stuff from Mom. I told my mother not to dare give him any more money. The money my dad worked so hard for, but she did not listen. Every day, my mother and I fought, and it was always for the same reason. Ivan. It got to the point where Mom suggested that I move out if I'm not happy for her. I could see that Ivan was using her for the money and that all the misfortune he was going through was all fabricated, but I was seen as the villain. My mom was not even talking to most of her friends anymore because they could also pick up that Ivan was shady. Seeing how she treated him like a lifeline broke my heart, and I wish I could expose him. I did not have anyone else to turn to, so I swallowed my pride and told my siblings what's going on with Mom and that I needed their help in keeping the man away from her because alone I could not do it. But they did not care and told not to bother them with such trivial nonsense ever again and that I should take Mom to a shrink if I felt she was losing her mind. They also said that she probably deserved to be scammed because she was moving on so fast after Dad's death. I was absolutely disgusted by their inability to treat Mom like a human being. They were still sour about the money they felt so entitled to, and would not even put their anger aside just to help her out. I saw then that it was up to me to help her get out of this, or at least protect her finances because she was not thinking clearly. I took my chances, so I tried to get a court order to have all the power of attorney of all my mother's assets. I did not want to use it against her, but I felt I had no choice. I had all the proof of her chronic illness, struggles with mental health over the years. Oh boy, when she found out, she was angrier at me than she's ever been in her life. She told me that I was just like my 2 other siblings, always after her money, and that she was not going to let me win the case. But I needed to win the case because Ivan was very popular in the community and they regarded him as a legit businessman. People were doing business with him, as well as my mom, and she wanted to put her house up for sale to help him. What I did not know was that Ivan had befriended my siblings and tricked them into investing. And then they mended their relationship with my mother. That in itself showed me that Ivan knew all her triggers and how to use them to get what he wanted. It was quick, but very painful. I was able to prove that my mother was not in her right headspace and take care of her accounts by herself. I've been taking care of her for the past 5 years, and I even had to go to a nearby community college because she was not doing great and I was scared she would hurt herself. The look in her eyes when it was announced that I was going to have control over everything was one of pain. She looked at me as if I had abandoned her just like everyone else. But now, she had those two tricksters on her side. I knew they were just sucking up to her so they could do business with Ivan. I've warned them many times to stay away, but they chose not to listen. But at least now, Mom could stop pumping money into whatever scheme Ivan had. I looked at his facial expression very carefully when I won the case. It was a mixture of disbelief and anger. He was panicked because now the power is in my hands. But it did not matter because he still had Mom under his control, and I was hopeless. The only condition I gave her was that she had to break up with him. Then I would give everything back to her, but it was like she was under a love spell. She looked at him like he was the sun, and did everything he commanded without seeing. I wondered how a woman who used to be so sharp had been reduced to all that. With my mother having no money, a very welcome development suddenly happened. My mom called me while I was at work. She was hysterical. She was saying something about not knowing where Ivan was for the past 2 days. It would not take a rocket scientist to figure out that he bolted once he realized that things were becoming complicated. He had no reason to remain in a relationship with her if she was broke now, was there? The next couple of days were chaos as everything that Ivan told us unraveled, and the truth about him came out. But it was not only him who was unmasked by Ivan's lies. Both of my siblings went back to hating my mother with even more passion before. They all invested all their life savings with Ivan because he promised them a very high return. And being the greedy people that they were, they got swindled for their cash. My mom was slightly better off because I saved her before she got too deep. It was like he never existed. One day he was there and the next he was gone. And all that was left was his mess. My mother could not believe that he was a liar who was using her for money. For days, she kept on looking for him, but the more she looked for him, the more heartbroken she got. Slowly, her eyes began to open and heartbreak took over. I was there with her after she had just gotten off a call with someone who supposedly knew him. She started crying and screaming about how stupid she's been, and all I could do was hold her. I hated seeing my mother so weak. He took away the little life she had left and turned her into someone I simply do not recognize. I feared this would finally break her, that she would go back to being the shadow she's been for the past 5 years. But she picked herself up and slowly started to recover. In the meantime, I returned all her money to her. At least, what remained after she's been milk dry. As for my siblings, they were extremely broke with nothing left. That was the only silver lining in this whole situation. Karma had sorted them out very well for what they've done to my mom and their love for money. They think that they were above everyone else, but I believe that this experience has greatly humbled them. Instead of taking this opportunity to fix things with my mom and stand together as a family, they've chosen to further blame my mother. Can they not see that she's been hurt enough? She was not happy and just full of life when my father was alive, but after his death, she lost the will to live. Then she lost the two of them because of their love for money. Now, she's just been played right when she was starting to believe in life again. As for Ivan, if that's what his name is, I hope that karma hits him 10 times harder than the pain he caused. I do not know someone can take advantage of a weak person with a chronic illness. How could he make her so happy and then just crush her? My mom's a good person. She does not deserve what he did to her. I never thought that such a thing would happen to someone in my home. No one could fool my mom before all that, but I see she's lacking the self-confidence and's gone back into her little shell. But this has not been a setback for her, because, well, after she came to terms with what had happened, she told me that she understood that I've been taking care of her for so long, and she's been too caught up in her own silly emotions. She regretted putting me through hell and is thankful that I forcefully took over her estate during her temporary insanity. She's now doing so much better and taking each day at a time. But things could have gone easily in another direction. I do try hard not to think about it, and I just think our lucky stars that we made it the hell out. What a wild story. It actually makes me wonder how many people Ivan's done this to before. It sucks that there's toxic people like this in the world, but I just hope Ivan can't strike too many more times. Let me know your thoughts on this story, guys. Drop it in the comment section down below. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new here. It helps support me so much. And we're going to turn our attention to the final story for the day that comes complete with an update. I'm 29 male, my girlfriend's 27. Dad has discouraged me from proposing because their family isn't thrilled about us having dark babies. This one's pretty intense. Let's hop right into it. Me and my girlfriend Naomi are an interracial couple, with her being Korean and me being black. We've dated for just under 5 years now, and for the past few months, I've been planning on proposing. I'm pretty traditional, so I thought it would be a good idea to ask Naomi's dad for his blessing before I proposed. I asked earlier this month. When I arrived at their house, I was greeted by Naomi's mother and father, who invited me in. After a little talking, I told them I was going to propose and wanted their blessing. Her mother was ecstatic, and her father did not seem displeased, and he told me it was okay. We talked more, and the topic of babies was brought up by her mom. I told her that I wanted to have kids with her, and she got even happier. We continued talking, and when I told them I needed to start heading home, her mother said she would send me home with some food and left for the kitchen. Me and her dad have a small language barrier between us that usually is alleviated by either Naomi or her mother, so we just kind of sat there in silence. He then told me this. I'll clean it up because, well, it's difficult to understand. Quote, "You're a very nice young man, and we like you a lot. We'd be happy to have you in our family, but we're not too happy about you and her having dark babies." I was stunned and kinda just awkwardly laughed. We sat there for another 2 minutes before her mother came in with a wrapped plate. When I got home, I said nothing about this to Naomi. I know I need to talk to her about what was said, but I don't want to be the one to accuse her family of being racist. And I know this is probably irrational, but the way her father said it put the thought in my head that Naomi may not want kids because of how dark I am. How do I approach her about this in the least accusatory way possible? What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. This is a pretty toxic scenario for OP. There's an update for this. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not subscribed to the channel, if you want to support me, the best way to do it is by pressing that subscribe button. Here's the update. Yesterday afternoon, I sat my girlfriend Naomi down and had a conversation with her about what her dad said to me. I tried to leave out any mention of proposal and told her I was just in their neighborhood and decided to pop in. Terrible lie, I know, but she bought it. I told her what her dad said about us having dark babies and asked if she had any similar feelings about our kids popping out half black. She looked at me like I was out of my mind. She told me she did not give a flying duck about the color of her kids as long as I was the father, which was reassuring. She was not so happy with her dad. She wanted us to take a drive over there and talk with her parents about it. That evening, we dropped by unannounced, and when her mom opened the door to see us, she immediately asked Naomi to show her the ring. Naomi was confused, and I about crapped myself. I, like the idiot I am, did not call ahead and tell her parents I did not propose. I guess her mom thought we were going to surprise her with the engagement ring and assumed I already popped the question. I was speechless. They began speaking in Korean, but from the context, I assume her mom was asking if I was too cheap to buy her a ring. Naomi looked at me and started hugging and kissing me. My secret was out of the bag, and I told her I'd already asked her parents for their blessing. She was a few seconds from crying, but sucked it up so we could speak to her father. Like I said in my past post, my future father-in-law's not that great at English, so he and Naomi spoke in Korean. According to Naomi, she asked him why he told me that, and he said that he was worried about their extended family not viewing our baby as Korean, and being rude to them for me being black. I guess this did not come across well in English because he was just concerned for me and our kids. He didn't care about our babies having dark skin. This was such a relief. Her father isn't the racist their extended families are, but duck them, who cares what they think? I'm just so glad that our future children are going to have grandparents that are going to love them. Only downside is now Naomi is expecting me to propose, so I really gotta knock her socks off. Thanks guys for listening. I'm just glad the ending turned out to be a language barrier. He's not actually a racist person that cares about the color of the babies. Let me know your thoughts on this story. Drop them in the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Mr. Reddito's here daily. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. The latest Mr. Reddito producer, Christine Billings. Thank you so much for the support.